Hi, I'm Steve Seabury. I'm a voice of one crying in the wilderness, prepare ye the way of the Lord. Speaking to you today from a little town in eastern Washington State. And the title of this presentation or video is Observations of the American Church Culture and Structure, asking the question, is it biblical? So when we first moved back here, and in the ensuing 2 months that we've been here, people have come up to us and asked us, well, have you found a church? And that question really took me aback because 20 years in the nations, in Turkey, Cyprus, and France, visiting Armenia, nobody ever asked me that question. And so I was scratching my head thinking, what do they mean by that? Do they mean, have we found a Sunday morning meeting to attend? Have we found a church group to affiliate with? Have we found a group of believers that we can go into deep relationship with? So I was puzzling over that. Then I started observing and researching and studying and thinking. And I'd like to share those observations with you, but you have to understand that our concept of the ekklesia, or the called out ones, not that I call it church, the ekklesia, the called out ones, was forged in 20 years in those nations. In Turkey, Cindy and I were part of a Turkish church, and I met the pastor, and the pastor said, Steve, I've been looking for a father for my church, and you're it. This was a Korean. Koreans and Americans didn't get along on the foreign field very well, and he's asking me to be the father of his church group. So that's what we did. We were a spiritual father and mother in deep relationship with Turks, Armenians, and Koreans. That went on for 3 years in Istanbul, and the pastor, Doğukan, and I traveled into southeast Turkey, and we were in life together. He would receive from me, I would receive from him. He considered me to be a spiritual father, and Cindy was a mom to the ladies. Then when we moved to Cyprus, there's no established church there, was not at all when we moved there in 2013. The Turkish Cypriots were an unreached people group. The Lord used Cindy to bring forth a people movement among Turkish Muslim women. And I mentored several people, and then we were asked to be 3 Nigerian pastors of university fellowship groups asked me to be their mentor to oversee them. So out of that, we would attend one of those churches every Sunday and preach or just be there. So we developed a relationship with those pastors mainly. And one group that I'm still mentoring today, there are 8 pastors, and the lead pastor I'm in life with. I'm in life with him, and I'm still a mentor, a spiritual father to him. Then when we moved to France, we started a group called the Fire Starters, which was a revival prayer group, and that became our intimate koinonia, where we entered into intimate unity and share in all aspects of life with them. That was our intimate koinonia fellowship group. Don't use the word fellowship because that word has a lot of meanings. Usually when people talk about fellowship, they talk about having some kind of conversation or coffee at a church coffee bar. So there were about 10 of us in the fire starters group, all French, and including a Catholic nun. That was our we had intimate fellowship. We were in life together with them. So that was our experience in those countries. And just as an observation, ekklesia comes from a verb meaning to call out. So when people talk about church, I think they mean ekklesia, or the called out ones. And I just want to quote Ephesians 2:21 through 22 and comment on that. If you'll just bear with me. In him, the whole structure is joined, bound, welded. I like that word, welded. That we're welded together with one another. We're welded together harmoniously. And it continues to rise into a holy temple in the Lord, a sanctuary dedicated, consecrated, and sacred to the presence of the Lord. That holy temple is us. In him and in fellowship with one another, you yourselves also are being built up into the structure with the rest to form a fixed abode, a dwelling place of God. So when we join together in koinonia, we're building a dwelling place for God. So do you think, when you go to church on Sunday mornings, do you think this way? Do you think that I'm joined together in koinonia, which means full intimate unity, sharing in the fullness of life together? My question is, are Christians in America experiencing that? Because that was the experience of the New Testament. All you have to do is read through the book of Acts and see that they shared in true unity, true intimacy, and were knit together. Supposedly we're being knit together in love. So my question is that our experience? You can't do that with 1,000 people. You can maybe do that with 10 or 12 people. So that's another aspect of true koinonia and fellowship. So my observations have been, in the 2 months we've been back, that koinonia, or sharing your life together with other people, is not culturally practiced in America. American culture is way to the left of independent, and the cultures that we came from and partook of and still consider our own were very community and relationally oriented. The Turks, the Cypriots, the Kurds, and the Armenians were very closely knit together. Koinonia was built into their culture. I think that in America there are a lot of lonely people. I think there's probably an epidemic of loneliness, perhaps even in the church and the Eklesia, the called out ones. So it's greatly lacking. I think a lot of Americans worship at the altars of individualism and independence and keep hands off or hands away from other people. Also, it appears to me that hospitality is greatly lacking. When we were in France, in Armenia, people would gather together on an afternoon or an evening for 4 hours and eat together and share their lives together and pray together and worship together. That happened quite often in France among the Armenians, the Armenian culture. So I think that hospitality is greatly lacking. I mean, when we first left for the field in 2004, we go back home on a furlough and people invite us to their house for dinner. But now when we go somewhere, people say, well, let me take you out to lunch somewhere in a busy restaurant. So you're in a busy, noisy restaurant, and most people only take a half hour for lunch. You don't have the atmosphere of fellowship there at all. I think also that it appears that community and family in the culture our family has been downtrodden and nearly stamped out in American culture over the last 60 years. The other thing I see missing in the Eklesia, or the church, I'd rather call it the Eklesia, is honor. In those cultures, honor is part of their culture. In Turk, Cypriot, and Armenian culture, the elderly are honored. They're not thrown away into these little senior prisons or senior centers or I don't know. I mean, it's just puzzling to me that the elderly are not honored here as they are in those other cultures. So these are my observations. If you have any comments or questions, you can send me an email. A lot of you know my email address. I'd be glad to discuss this with you. Just overlooking the Eklesia in America, we must, in the days to come, the days of persecution and suffering, we need to learn about these things now before those things come down upon us. The brethren in the Soviet countries of East Germany had developed community and family so that they were able to stand together in the day of persecution and suffering, and so have the underground church in China. Before all that came down upon them, the persecution and suffering, they developed a tight-knit ekklesia group, small groups. And my sense is that we really need to do that now in preparation for what's coming down the road. So I pray that you would come to a deep understanding of koinonia, ekklesia, community, family, hospitality, and honor. I pray that in the name of Jesus. God bless you.